mich nur als Imposant.
Hello, you're watching Gravitas and I'm Shreya Upadhyay. Let's get started. On Gravitas tonight, a deep dive into how, even as Europe legitimizes President Vladimir Putin once again, Russia continues to advance in the battlefield. Which way will the war go, and will Donald Trump's June deadline hold ground? We tell you tonight. Also on the show, a look at how Iran isn't succumbing to American pressure. In fact, since the first round of talks at Oman, Iran has been firm on its stance of hitting back at the US if Iran is attacked. And we also get you the latest from poll-bound Bangladesh, the first Gen Z-dominated election and one that will decide the shape of Bangladeshi political landscape. The Russia-Ukraine war is turning more dangerous. Russia is pushing forward on the battlefield, squeezing Ukraine across a stretched and brutalized front. Yet the most important moves are perhaps not happening on the battlefield. European powers are moving back toward direct engagement with Russian President Vladimir Putin, a step that could be seen as legitimizing Moscow even as the war is still raging. We begin first with the battlefield developments. According to Ukrainian officials, Russia launched another wave of overnight attacks across Ukraine, killing civilians and striking critical infrastructure. In the southern port city of Odessa, Ukraine's emergency crews worked through rubble after a Russian strike killed one person and injured two others. The attack also damaged an energy facility in the region. Ukrainian energy workers said that the latest Russian strike on an undisclosed power grid was more powerful than earlier ones. Workers could be seen clearing rubble, dismantling damaged equipment following the alleged strike.
We can compare the attacks because the attacks repeatedly happened during my shift, both with missiles, drones, and combined. This attack was, one might say, a little more powerful. The charges were more powerful. We felt it.
Now, further east, Russian drones hit a town in the Zaporizhzhia region, injuring multiple civilians, including a one-year-old child. Overnight attacks killed at least 3 people, according to officials, with the eastern Kharkiv region also hit. These are the visuals on your screen from the eastern Ukrainian city of Sloviansk, where emergency workers can be seen working in the aftermath of a Russian strike that killed a mother and daughter. 7 more people are said to be injured in the attack on the industrial hub, which Russian forces are slowly advancing toward. Ukraine also confirmed the loss of a combat helicopter crew. An Mi-24 helicopter failed to return from a mission, killing all crew members on board. While Russia claimed an attack by Ukraine damaged the Zaporizhzhia plant, it did not lead to any safety threat, adding that one of the two external power lines supplying the nuclear power plant has been cut off at the moment. On the battlefield, fighting continues around Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine. Russian forces are pressing toward the city, seeking to complete a months-long campaign to seize the strategic hub and tighten their grip on the Donetsk region. Pokrovsk, once home to about 60,000 people, sits on a key railway network and has become a central prize in Moscow's eastern offensive. Ukraine's military says its troops still hold parts of northern Pokrovsk and continue to defend the nearby city of Myrinohald. But officials acknowledge that Russian forces are advancing by exploiting gaps in the Ukrainian air defense, dropping guided bombs and using superior manpower to control surrounding heights and flanks. Open source analysts tracking the front lines report Russian infantry moving deeper into northern Pokrovsk and pushing toward nearby villages. If Pokrovsk fails, it would mark Russia's most significant battlefield gain since the capture of Avdiivka early last year. Now on to diplomacy, where the shift begins in Europe. The French President Emmanuel Macron has openly called for Europe to resume direct dialogue with the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Words that signal a major shift from isolation to engagement. Macron says that Europe cannot remain on the sidelines and must develop a coordinated approach, warning against leaving negotiations entirely in American hands. Emmanuel Macron has argued that talks with Putin should be structured, limited in participants, and guided by a clear European mandate. Remember, last week, France sent its top diplomat to Moscow, signaling that engagement is no longer theoretical but underway. Kremlin had confirmed recent contact with Paris. In fact, the Kremlin spokesperson said that so far there has been no indication that Paris has a desire for dialogue at the highest level. However, he further stated that Macron's statements on the need to build relations with Russia was viewed positively. Kremlin also said that no date has been set for the next round of peace talks in the ongoing war. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, meanwhile, has dismissed claims of rapid progress in the peace talks, warning against optimism and saying that negotiations remain far from complete. West Asia is on tenterhooks. There is no breakthrough yet, even though US and Iran have started formal negotiations. Amid military posturing by both sides, it has now emerged that Iran dictated terms to the US during these talks. As per reports, the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi made it clear that talks will not go ahead in the presence of CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, who visited the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier. In an unprecedented move, the world's military superpower reportedly accepted this condition. The Iranians additionally purportedly refused to sit across the negotiating table with the US President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and West Asia envoy Steve Witkoff. The talks were conducted indirectly through Oman's Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi, who passed messages to the delegations sitting in different rooms. While US demands reportedly included limitations on ballistic missiles and ending uranium enrichment, as well as aiding of outfits like Hamas and Hezbollah, Iran stood firm on its stance. It affirmed that the talks shall be limited to the nuclear issue alone, and that no discussion will be entertained on ballistic missiles and uranium enrichment. Earlier, the US had agreed to Iran's condition for shifting the talks venue from Turkey to Oman. Now, Israel has upped the ante. Prime Minister Netanyahu has dashed off to the US for a meeting with Donald Trump to discuss the negotiations with Iran. Earlier, Israeli defense officials told their American counterparts that they are willing to strike Iran alone if necessary. In fact, they dubbed Iran's ballistic missile program as an existential threat to Israel.
On this trip, we will discuss a range of issues: Gaza, the region, but of course, first and foremost, the negotiations with Iran. I will present to the President our views regarding the principles for the negotiations, the important principles, which in my view are important not only for Israel, but for everyone in the world who seeks peace and security in the Middle East.
Iran is also keeping a close eye on Netanyahu's America visit. It has advised America to act independently of the pressure exerted by Israel. Iran's diplomatic offensive continued as Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's senior advisor Ali Larijani held talks with senior Omani officials.
Our negotiating party is America. It is up to America to decide to act independently of the pressures and destructive influences that are detrimental to the region.
Even as U.S. dithers on its future course of action, Iranian authorities have continued their internal crackdown. 4 prominent figures, including Reformists Front Chief Azhar Mansouri and former diplomat Mohsen Amizadeh, have been arrested for allegedly disrupting the country's political and social order and working for Israel's benefit during the anti-government protests. Earlier today, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei granted pardons and reduced jail terms of more than 2,100 people ahead of the anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. However, the list did not feature those who've been convicted in connection with the protests. Iran's Chief Justice Mohseni Ejei has ordered that anyone detained for the protests will receive zero mercy. By Iran's own admission, at least 3,117 people lost their lives during the nationwide anti-government demonstrations. With Iran's unwillingness to back down from an aggressive stance and U.S. beefing up its military presence in the region, a common ground between the two sides seems a distant possibility at present. Our next story is from Turkey, and we will like to begin with a question for you. Is Turkey a secret nuclear power? A simple question and a silence from its foreign minister when asked about it during a live broadcast. It's speaking volumes. Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan was asked point blank whether Turkey has nuclear weapons or not. What followed was a smile. No denial, no confirmation, just a smile which is raising eyebrows in the region. In diplomatic and media engagements, silence is rarely empty. It is ambiguous. It is an unclear way to say nothing while saying everything all at once. Now here's where the story deepens. This comes just after Fidan held a phone call with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. According to the Turkish Foreign Ministry, the discussion focused heavily on Iran's nuclear program, ongoing negotiations, and regional security. Fidan also asserted that Iran currently does not have nuclear weapons and that there is no evidence that it wants to build them. Fidan said that uranium enrichment alone is not enough to make a bomb, but he cautioned that if Iran acquires nukes, it would damage cooperation with Turkey. The timing matters. This call comes as West Asia is on an edge where nuclear capability or the perception of it can trigger war. Take US strikes on Iran back in June 2025. Let's connect the next dot. Turkey is not a nuclear weapons state. It is a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, or the NPT, and a member of NATO. These commitments restrict the development of nuclear weapons both legally as well as politically, and yet Turkey is rapidly becoming a nuclear power in a commercial sense. The country's nuclear journey did not start today. Plans for nuclear energy date back to the 1970s. Today, they are becoming a slow reality. The Akiu nuclear power plant, a 4-unit facility built and financed by Russia's Rosatom, is expected to begin operations between 2026 and 28. A second plant was planned in Sinop with the Franco-Japanese consortium. A third is envisioned with China, using US-derived technology. And by 2050, Turkey aims to operate 3 nuclear plants, supplying up to 20% of its electricity needs and reducing dependence on energy imports. They also plan a uranium enrichment plant, and this is where questions begin to form. Analysts question that while all of this is legal and civilian nuclear technology is inherently for dual use, because the same knowledge, infrastructure and expertise that power cities can also power weapons. But at this moment, it will be extreme to think something like this because there is no evidence to suggest that Turkey is pursuing nuclear arms. But no chances can be taken in geopolitics, especially when it comes to dealing with a nuclear power. So when a foreign minister smiles, instead of actually answering the question, when nuclear energy expands, when regional nuclear talks intensify, such questions do strike one's in the mind. Is this just energy security? Is it strategic leverage? Or is Turkey a secret nuclear power? And coming up on Gravitas, it's the new versus the old guard in Nepal. Rapper turned politician Balendra Shah is putting up a tough fight against veteran leader and former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. Who has more weight? We tell you in just a bit. Also, this will make tea and coffee lovers happy. A new study states that a cup of tea or coffee can lower the risk of dementia. Details coming up. And a look at the clash of tournaments. It was Super Bowl versus T20 cricket. Who got more viewers? Which one broke the records? Getting you more on it on Gravitas. Pakistan has taken a major U-turn in international cricket as they agreed to play India on the 15th of February in the T20 World Cup. The game, which was initially scheduled, was in doubt. Pakistan planned boycott following Bangladesh's removal from the tournament. The backtrack comes after the International Cricket Council, or the ICC, has drawn a clear line that Pakistan has no ground whatsoever to boycott its high-profile T20 World Cup clash against India, and is not in a position to even set conditions. This follows reports that the Pakistan Cricket Board approached the ICC with multiple demands, including a call for a full bilateral series with India and even a proposal for a tri-nation series involving India, Pakistan and Bangladesh. The ICC said no. Instead, the global body reminded Pakistan of a binding reality. The members' participation agreement that was signed in December 2024. That agreement already addressed political and security concerns by introducing a hybrid hosting model, ensuring that India-Pakistan matches could be played at neutral venues if it's required. In other words, the ICC had already made accommodations. There would be no rewriting of the rules mid-tournament. Now here's where the story takes a sharp political turn. Just days ago, the Pakistani government announced that its national team would not play India on the 15th of February, claiming that the move was in solidarity with Bangladesh, who had withdrawn from the tournament over security concerns. That announcement sent shockwaves through the cricketing world. The India-Pakistan match, remember, is the biggest fixture in world cricket, the financial engine of the T20 World Cup, central to a multi-billion-dollar broadcast deal. A boycott would have cost the sport. Crisis talks began behind closed doors. Meetings were held in Lahore involving the ICC, the Pakistan Cricket Board, the Bangladesh Cricket Board, and eventually the standoff broke. The ICC, in fact, also announced that there will be no sanctions on Bangladesh for its decision to not travel to India for the T20 World Cup. Instead, they were given a face-saving exit. Pakistan did something different, in fact, very different. It left Bangladesh isolated after withdrawing despite its earlier claims of solidarity. Islamabad reversed course, and in doing so, Pakistan has effectively abandoned Bangladesh, leaving Dhaka to stand alone on the very issue that triggered this entire crisis. Bangladesh had even appealed to Pakistan to end the boycott for the good of the entire cricket ecosystem. Pakistan has now finally answered the appeal. A year and a half ago, Bangladesh plunged into turmoil as its elected Prime Minister was forced to flee in the wake of raging protests. Less than 48 hours from now, 127 million voters will finally elect a government of its choice. Campaigning has officially ended. 1,981 candidates, including 249 independents, are in the fray for 300 seats. With Awami League not on the ballot this time, the race to power has intensified. Unlike the past, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or the BNP, is contesting against its erstwhile ally, Jamaat-e-Islami. That is not all. The BNP chief, Tariq Rahman, indicated that Jamaat will not be a part of the government if his party wins the election.
How can I form a government with the political opponent? Then who will be in the opposition? A government needs an opposition to balance the whole thing, needs a good opposition. I think, I don't know what will be their seat number, but if they are in the opposition, I hope to have them as a good opposition.
Let's take a closer look at what the opinion polls are indicating at the moment. As per a survey conducted by the EASD, which covered over 41,000 people, the BNP-led alliance is likely to sweep these elections with 208 seats and garner more than 66% of the vote share. On the other hand, Jamaat and its allies may barely get 46 seats. The Shafiqur Rahman-led party is all set to bag close to 12% of the popular vote. However, the International Institute of Law and Diplomacy's poll projects a hung parliament. For instance, it backed the Jamaat-led alliance to get 105 seats as compared to 101 for the BNP and its allies. In terms of vote share too, it has claimed a mere 2% gap between the two alliances. Now, in what appears as a shot in the arm for the BNP, another survey done by the Communication and Research Foundation claims that 48.2% of the respondents who voted for Awami League in the previous elections are likely to now vote for the Tariq Rahman-led party, which is the BNP. As against this, only 29.9% of the erstwhile Awami League voters may back Jamaat-e-Islami. Meanwhile, young voters are looking forward to this election. They view it as a break from the past, hoping that a new government will restore law and order, protect civil liberties, and usher in accountable leadership.
A secular country, a democratic country, I would love to Bangladesh to be people to be free. People can wear what they want, do what they want without being morally policed, being harassed, as I'm talking about as a woman, so being harassed or talked down about.
Well, some voters have also expressed concern over the dwindling participation of female candidates in Bangladesh, a country that has seen two strong female prime ministers in Sheikh Hasina and the late Khalida Zia.
My primary hope was that there would be more women leaders, which is disappointing because I don't see that many women leaders, and the fact that their women's issues would be prioritized more, and it hasn't been prioritized that much.
one election to the other, just weeks to go for the elections in Nepal, the mountain country is now witnessing a remarkable political showdown. It's taking shape where rhymes, rebellion and raw youth power are colliding with the old guard politics. Just weeks before the 5th March general election in Nepal, this once quiet constituency has turned into the most watched political arena in the country, as rapper-turned-politician Balendra Shah, who's seen as a Gen Z leader, takes on former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli in a high-stakes head-to-head contest. Just days ago, Balendra Shah, the prime ministerial face of the Rashtra Swatantrata Party, hit the ground running, launching an intensive door-to-door campaign across Chapa 5 in the Koshi province. Just 2 days earlier, KP Sharma Oli had arrived in the same constituency to begin his own outreach, a signal that even the seasoned political heavyweight knows this race is no ordinary one. Chapa is Oli's political fortress. He has won parliamentary elections from the district 6 times out of 7 and made it his traditional stronghold. Political analysts say that the race is far tighter than ever before, driven by anger following last year's mass youth-led protests that forced Oli to step down. The Gen Z movement, sparked by corruption allegations and restrictions on social media, erupted into widespread unrest. Dozens were killed, thousands injured, and public property was damaged across the country. Under intense pressure, Oli had resigned on the 9th of September, and just days later, former Chief Justice Sushila Karki was appointed as the interim Prime Minister. The parliament was dissolved and early elections were called in, all in a bid to restore stability to a country in turmoil. It is against this backdrop that Balendra Shah has made what many see as his boldest move yet. Instead of contesting from a safer urban seat or his power base in Kathmandu, he chose to challenge KP Sharma Oli directly on his home turf. This is Balen's second visit to Chapa in just 2 weeks. It shows how seriously he's taking this fight. In fact, on Sunday alone, he visited more than a dozen locations, meeting voters, rallying young supporters, and pushing a message of change, accountability, and clean governance. The outcome in Chapa 5 is now seen as a national bellwether, a test of whether Nepal's youth-driven anger translates into ballots and whether a political stronghold can fall. Is this the end of the old order, or can it still hold the line? That we'll have to wait and see. Has the start of the end of NATO begun? We ask this because the United States is pulling back its troops while Washington is preparing to hand over 2 of NATO's most critical command posts to European leadership. Allied Joint Force Command in Naples and Joint Force Command in Norfolk will soon move out of American hands and into the control of European officers. Both commands are currently led by US admirals, and that is about to change now. With Italy taking over the base in Naples and Britain in Norfolk, the shift is in alignment with President Donald Trump's demands that Europe must take responsibility for its own security. His administration wants a NATO that no longer depends on Washington to lead, fund, and manage its core military structure. The message from the White House has been clear. NATO must become European-led, and it is making multiple moves toward this. Recently, the Pentagon has reportedly informed allies of a withdrawal of around 200 American personnel from NATO structures across Europe. These exits effectively roughly 30 NATO-linked bodies are affected here, including specialized training centers and expert groups. American troops are also leaving key locations such as NATO's Intelligence Fusion Center in the UK, the Allied Special Operation Forces Command in Brussels, and a maritime command structure in Portugal. This transition comes amid political strain within the alliance and rising tensions in the Arctic and North Atlantic, especially with respect to Greenland. Last February, remember, the US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had publicly told European allies to take ownership of conventional security on the continent. And Europe responded months later. At the NATO summit in The Hague, leaders pledged to raise defense spending to 5% of their national GDPs, more than double the earlier target. But despite that commitment, Pentagon plans to redirect military resources away from Europe and toward other priorities, including the Indo-Pacific and the US border security. For now, nearly 80,000 American troops remain stationed in Europe. NATO officials stress that the US presence is still substantial. Yet the direction is unmistakable. The balance of power inside NATO appears to be clearly shifting. Well, at a time when children are taking their own lives to finish a task in an online game and digital anxiety is defining our daily life, it's time we ask tech giants some tough questions. It's time that tech billionaires are forced to act upon the plethora of concerns arising from the very platforms they have created. The world's largest social media companies have been put on trial for allegedly creating addiction machines. In a landmark trial which began in California to examine the mental health effects of Instagram and YouTube, the debate is who should be held accountable. While the argument is that mental health issues are a result of social media addiction, Meta and YouTube have conveniently denied their role, blaming the user instead. Our next report gets you the details.
Every home knows this moment. A child, a glowing screen, time slipping away. It starts quietly. A phone after homework. A video before bed. One more scroll and the lure is addictive. The world's largest social media companies have been accused of creating addiction machines. Right now, a landmark trial is underway in the US. Meta, the parent company of Instagram and Google's YouTube, face claims that their platforms deliberately hook young users, reshaping behavior and harming mental health.
But we've met the American British parents and we're here shoulder to shoulder to show our support with all these children that have been lost to social media harms. And it's just wrong. And this is a global problem. It's not just here in the US, it's UK, it's France, it's Germany. This is a global problem and things need to change. And we're here to support them.
The trial focuses on allegations that a 20-year-old woman, identified as KGM, suffered severe mental harm because she became addicted to social media as a child. Lawyers for Meta and YouTube told the jury that KGM's addiction stemmed from other issues in her life and not their negligence. But there are parents from the UK as well who claim that they lost their children due to social media and are also campaigning for action.
My child, Christopher, he was murdered by predators through social media. He was attacked and they gave him 50 days to complete challenges or else they would kill his family. And the last challenge unfortunately got the better of him.
Tech companies counter that their platforms offer creativity, connection and learning. They point to parental controls, screen time tools and ongoing safety investments. These tech giants argue responsibility is shared between platforms, parents, schools and society. The trial proceedings are expected to see Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg on the stand next week and Instagram boss Adam Mosseri in the courtroom as well. Whatever the verdict, one thing is already clear. This trial is not just about one child or one girl in Los Angeles. It is about every family that has ever watched helplessly as a screen pulled their child away. The trial's courtroom may be in California, but the wounds are everywhere. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Israeli schools have delayed opening hours after a surge in violent incidents targeting teachers and staff, raising fresh concerns over safety inside classrooms. Israel's teachers' union claims attacks and harassment have become routine and warned that they must not be normalized. This week, several schools across Israel reportedly opened late following assaults involving students and parents. According to the Jerusalem Post, classes at a religious state school in Yehud Monosson began late on Tuesday after repeated and severe incidents of violence by a student against teachers and classmates. The teachers' union reportedly said that the delay was meant to send a clear message that violence inside schools will not be tolerated. A similar incident was reported in Altit, where a student allegedly attacked a pregnant teacher, sending her to hospital. The student reportedly had a history of violent behavior and began the assault after the teacher tried to protect another staff member. Following the attack, the school delayed opening the next day. Union Chairman Michael Pinto has warned that violence against educators is becoming an everyday phenomenon. In a statement, Pinto said that anyone who raises a hand against a teacher undermines the whole education system. Last week, more incidents were reported in different parts of Israel. In Kiryat Motzkin, a school delayed opening after a student's father entered the campus without permission and attacked a staff member. In Kiryat Gat, a pregnant teacher was hospitalized after being threatened by a parent, suffering a panic attack. The teachers' union says that these decisions to start school late are acts of protest aimed at forcing authorities to take stronger action to protect the teachers. Educators warn that fear and insecurity are driving many out of the profession, worsening Israel's nationwide teacher shortage. What's more, the crisis has now entered politics. Opposition leader and former Prime Minister Yair Lapid has announced a national education plan, promising billions of shekels in investment. The proposal includes a 10 billion shekel package to raise the salaries of teachers, as well as a promise to improve the working conditions for teachers. Lapid says better pay, stronger protections, and safer schools are all key to saving Israel's faltering education system. With violence in classrooms on the rise, teachers say that delayed openings are only a temporary measure. In fact, they're now demanding long-term solutions, stronger discipline policies, better security, and firm legal action against attackers. Until then, unions warn disruptions could continue. Israeli authorities have charged two brothers from Jerusalem with serious national security offenses, accusing them of passing sensitive information to Iranian intelligence handlers in exchange for money. Prosecutors say the case is part of a wider and growing effort by Tehran to recruit Israelis for espionage. Here's more. According to Israel's state prosecutor's office, the two brothers, both in their 20s, were indicted on Monday for maintaining contact with Iranian intelligence operatives. Investigators say one brother, with the assistance of the other, transferred sensitive information related to Israel's national security. The indictment alleges the suspects were fully aware they were acting under the direction of their Iranian handlers and they were paid for their cooperation. Among the charges, delivering information to an enemy, aiding hostile intelligence services, and transferring material that could harm Israel's security. Prosecutors have now asked the court to keep the brothers in detention until legal proceedings are completed. Authorities have not disclosed the brothers' identities or ethnic background. Officials say that the case highlights how foreign intelligence agencies are increasingly targeting ordinary Israeli citizens. Security officials warn recruitment often begins online through social media, encrypted messaging platforms and financial offers. Israel's domestic security agency, Shin Bet, says the arrests are part of a wider pattern. In its latest annual report, the agency revealed that at least 25 Israelis were indicted for spying for Iran last year. It says the number of Iranian recruitment attempts rose by 400% as compared with the previous year. Officials also say more than 120 suspected Iranian espionage plots were disrupted last year alone. And among those previously arrested, an IDF soldier from the Givati Brigade detained in September on suspicion of spying for Iran. Investigators say he had been in contact with Iranian intelligence since mid-2025 and sent photographs and videos of military bases and weapon systems. Authorities say such information could pose a risk to Israeli troops and national defense. Last week, another Israeli citizen, Elimelech Stern, was sentenced to 3 years in prison for maintaining contact with an Iranian operative and conspiring to issue threats. Security agencies say these cases demonstrate a systemic Iranian effort to build intelligence networks inside Israel. They warn that financial incentives, ideological pressure, and digital manipulation are commonly used to recruit operatives. Experts say Iran's intelligence strategy focuses on low-cost, high-impact operations. By recruiting local citizens, Tehran avoids sending agents across the borders while gaining access to sensitive sites and information. Israeli officials say this makes counterintelligence work more complex and more urgent. Israeli authorities, in fact, say that investigations into possible Iranian-linked espionage are continuing. They are urging citizens to report suspicious contacts and warning that cooperation with hostile intelligence services carries severe legal consequences. As regional tensions remain high, security officials say that preventing internal breaches is now one of Israel's top priorities. Moving on, robots are entering operating rooms, algorithms are guiding scalpels, but as machines take a bigger role in surgery, doctors are asking a hard question. Can artificial intelligence be trusted with human lives? Our next report decodes the future of automated surgeries.
The operating theatre is changing quietly, rapidly. Artificial intelligence is now embedded in surgical robots, imaging systems and navigation tools. It promises precision, speed and consistency. But new reports suggest the transition is not seamless. According to investigations, doctors have linked several botched surgeries to AI-assisted medical devices. Since artificial intelligence was added to certain systems, the US Food and Drug Administration has received at least 100 unconfirmed reports of malfunctions and adverse events. These include surgical errors, device failures, and cases where body parts were misidentified. AI in surgery does not act alone. Machines assist. Humans decide. Yet, as systems grow more autonomous, the line blurs. Surgeons rely on AI-guided images, automated movements and real-time suggestions. If data is flawed or algorithms misinterpret anatomy, mistakes can cascade quickly. Most AI tools learn from massive datasets. If those datasets are incomplete or biased, the machine's judgment reflects that. In surgery, millimeters matter, seconds matter. There is no room for error. Still, experts caution against panic. AI has already saved lives. It steadies human hands, reduces fatigue, improves accuracy in complex procedures. Robotic-assisted surgeries often lead to smaller cuts, less blood loss, and faster recovery. The future of medicine is not human versus machine. It is human with machine. Regulators are now racing to keep pace. They are pushing for clearer testing standards, stronger reporting systems, and greater transparency in how algorithms work. AI will not replace doctors in the operating room, but it will reshape their role. The question is not whether machines belong in medicine. They already do. The question is how much control humans are willing to hand over and how carefully are they going to guard it. Bureau Report WION World is One.
Moving on, for millions, the steam rising from a cup of coffee or tea is a daily comfort. But new data suggests that it is also a powerful shield for the brain. A new study suggests that your daily brew becomes a frontline defense against the most feared disease of old age. Take a look for more details.
Steam rises, the aroma settles. For billions, tea or coffee is comfort, habit, routine. But beneath the ritual, something else may be happening quietly powerful. That morning cuppa not only wakes you up, but also could be silently saving your brain. Researchers studying long-term health patterns noticed a curious trend. People who regularly drank tea or coffee seemed to hold on to memory and thinking skills longer than those who didn't. At first, it looked like coincidence. Then the data deepens. According to a report published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, people who have a couple of teas or coffees a day have a lower risk of dementia. Researchers studied health records of more than 130,000 people over 40 years to reach the conclusion. According to the study, the caffeinated coffee drinkers also reported slightly less cognitive decline than those who opted for decaf and performed better on some objective tests of brain function. Tea and coffee are packed with bioactive compounds. Caffeine sharpens alertness. Antioxidants fight inflammation. Polyphenols may protect brain cells from damage. Together, they appear to support neural networks involved in memory, learning, and attention. Researchers observed that 2 to 3 cups a day showed the strongest link to reduced dementia risk. More is not necessarily better. Experts caution that balance matters. Too much caffeine could disrupt sleep itself, a major factor in brain health. The findings do not suggest replacing medical care with mugs. They point instead to lifestyle. Dementia is shaped by many forces: genetics, exercise, diet, education, sleep, and social connection. Tea and coffee seem to fit into that larger picture as small, steady protectors. For now, the message is reassuring, not revolutionary. Your daily cup is not just fuel. It may be quiet maintenance for the brain. In a world chasing complex solutions, it turns out one may already be sitting on the kitchen counter, warm, familiar, and gently protective.
It's the Valentine's Day week, and our next story is for people who will be out on their first date with someone special. So suppose you've just had an amazing first date, you're smiling, thinking about them, but hesitant whether to text them or not. Do you instantly go for the usual, "Hey, I had a great time" message, or do you hold back to not seem very desperate? Well, science has some answers for you. As per a recent study published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, receiving a message from the morning after a date increases a person's desire to pursue that relationship further. Experts quoted in the study say that the sweet spot is usually within 24 hours. It shows interest, but it is also, letting the other person breathe and process the date. The survey shows we all tend to stress way too much about whether we look desperate or distant. Psychologists say that after a good first date, our brains go into reward mode. Dopamine is high, emotions are fresh, so when you text within a reasonable window, usually within 24 hours, it doesn't scream desperation. It signals clarity, confidence, and emotional intelligence. In fact, the study states that waiting too long can actually backfire. Silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people assume disinterest. Basically, that mystery that we try to create around ourselves turns into doubt. So what's the real takeaway? That there's no universal rule, only authenticity matters, but timing clearly plays a significant role as well. They prowl the aisles, snap on the chips, charm every customer. Now New York City is taking an unusual stand for its cats. Beloved, illegal Bodega Cats may finally get rights in the city that never sleeps. Take a look.
New York is full of convenience stores called bodegas. They sell everything from beer to batteries to lottery tickets. For decades, shopkeepers relied on a biological security force to keep the city's infamous rodent population at bay. The Bodega Cats also help entertain the customers.
Simba is very important to us because he keeps the store clean for the mice, and also the people very often they come to visit.
But under current New York City health code, any live animal in a food establishment is a violation. It's a classic urban catch-22. Keep a cat and risk a $350 fine, or lose the cat and face a $2,000 citation for a rat infestation. Now, a new legislation aims to finally legalize the Bodega Cat. Now, after a campaign garnered 14,000 signatures, a new legislation is being brought to stop penalizing the owners of Bodega Cats.
In New York City. So technically they're not legal in New York City, so we want to change that because they're here, they're friendly, they're part of New York City, they're part of the bodega, so why not make sure that they can be legal and not penalize the stores or have to find a new home for them.
This isn't just about avoiding tickets, it's a radical overhaul of animal welfare. The proposed laws would mandate cat zones separate from food preparation and require shop owners to provide high-standard veterinary care.
What people don't see is how many are neglected, abused, unwanted, never get veterinary care, end up having kittens, on the street, in the back of the store. Kittens are given away. They're contributing every day to the outdoor cat population crisis that we're trying to tackle by reproducing.
For decades, New Yorkers have dodged rats with a furry ally by their side. These street-smart cats are not pets in the conventional sense. They are survivors, adaptable, resilient, and deeply woven into the fabric of urban culture. Tourists snap photos, locals swap stories. The cats reduce rodents without toxic traps, yet they live in a grey legal zone. Now hopes are that a new legislation would make these cats live in harmony.
And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Gravitas. But before we leave, we are leaving you with some interesting visuals from across the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Bye-bye.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. unsolved murders, psychopaths who defy explanation, international war crimes, and millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Prime Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
And welcome to a brand new edition of South India, a daily dynamic show that will capture the pulse of southern states.
By blending the special stories, the breaking alerts, and the culture developments as well. From the 7 News.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances, power never stands still. From Tehran to Tel Aviv, from Damascus to Doha, the West Asia Post cuts through the chaos to reveal the region that shapes the world. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post, the region's story, the world's impact.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch. WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
An election unlike any other. High stakes. Tall promises. And a changed political landscape. A poll without the battle of the Begums. The return of Jamaat-e-Islami. And a moment of truth for women and minorities. A country in the middle of uncertain times, standing at the cusp of political change. Who will rule Bangladesh?
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. We are live on WION World is One. Time now for Pulse, the headlines. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the top priority in his talks with US President Trump will be the